The Beer Association of South Africa has launched a High Court review of previous alcohol bans imposed by the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. So the industry group said that the aim of that review is to have these bans declared irrational, invalid and set aside. Let's get more on that now. Patricia Pillay is the CEO of the Beer Association of South Africa and she joins me now live. A very good afternoon to you, ma'am. Thanks indeed for joining us on the program. So why are you launching this court review now? Are you anticipating further restrictions on alcohol as we see the COVID-19 cases rise?
Thanks, Griselda. You know, we've heard rumors that there's possibly another lockdown that's looming. We've seen this movie before. We've seen it play out last year on the 29th of December 2020, just before our New Year celebration. And we don't want an instance where we are then at the last minute having to call employees and tell them not to come to work. We have to pull our fleets off the road, etc. And we are not being consulted. So we are really at the end of our road here in terms of the decisions that have been taken without consultation. And we've seen that we have no other alternative but to go to court and ask for direction in terms of the way forward and the previous decisions that have been taken.
Ms. Pillay, what forms the crux of your application? What will you be arguing?
So I think the basis will be the previous bans. And if you look at the initial 4 dates of last year going into this year, we are asking the courts to please assist because, as I've said, we've not been able to get proper information from the necessary ministerial bodies. I think that what we're asking the courts is to ask the bodies to provide us with the information on which they made their decisions. We will then put forward that once we've received the evidence and looked through, we would ask the court to make a decision as to whether this has been rational and that their decisions to lock us down have been rational. And I think this would then determine the way forward for the industry. I think we can't go on in this way. COVID-19, I think we all understood, is something that we don't totally understand with regards to the variants. We've seen now there's a new variant as well. So this could go on for another year or another 2 years. And we cannot consistently live by the edge of our seats. We need to have certainty. If we are going to be banned, what is the criteria that is being used? So we really are going to court to say, please guide us. Please ask government to give us the clarity as to how they have come to their previous decisions.
But I guess while you may argue that the previous alcohol bans, had a devastating impact on your industry, perhaps government can also argue, which they already have, that at a time, for example, where hospitals were filled with COVID-19 patients, trauma cases, which they say had a direct link to alcohol consumption, was putting an added burden on the healthcare system. How would you be arguing against that?
Well, that's the information that we'd like to see. We'd like to see the actual evidence. You remember, everything should be evidence-based, every decision that is taken by government. So I think that a lot has been said without the evidence being provided. So that's all that we are saying to the courts is, please, we file this notice now. Government has 15 days within which to respond, and they need to provide us all this information that you say that they have. They need to give that to us because we've tried to ask for meetings with the certain ministries that we fall under. We've received no success. We don't get consulted. We sit with you and we listen to the president like everybody else, despite the fact that it has such a huge impact on our industry. And it's not sustainable to continue in this manner. So there are many livelihoods at stake and livelihoods that are also feeling the strain. Imagine the apprehension that you feel not knowing if you're going to earn an income. And you're waiting on a president on a Sunday to realize whether you're actually going to be paid that December. This is not sustainable. And we need the courts to help us, get us the information, which is now in the hands of government to deliver to us. And then we can then ask the courts to decide whether this is sufficient information to decide whether this has been a rational decision in terms of the lockdowns.
I know that you said that you tried to source all the relevant information that you need as to why government had previously instituted these alcohol bans. But are you looking at, as the Beer Association, when the President possibly returns from his West African visits that he's currently on, likely to, seek an audience with him or the National Coronavirus Command Council, given that you're saying that there are rumours of a possible further ban?
Griselda, since the inception of COVID-19, we've written letters to the presidency, to the ministers that have been involved. Right now, in terms of this application, we've cited three ministers, the two ministers and the president, the Minister of COGTA and the Minister of Health. But we've also reached out to the Minister of the DTIC, and we get no responses, we get no audiences. And when you look at when COVID started, it's over a year ago. So we really are desperate, and that is why we have no alternative but to turn to the court. It is really disappointing when you look at the lack of consultation that happens with the industry, which is probably being one of the most impacted by the strain.
Patricia Pillay is the CEO of the Beer Association of South Africa. Thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. We'll take a